Good morning, Squadron. Welcome to the On Time, On Target Morning Brief. We have a great show for you today. We're going to talk about the DoorDash IPO yesterday, up 80%. Crazy, right? And now we have the Airbnb IPO today. So we're going to talk about that and whether or not you should participate in that, sort of the entry price and where I expect that to go to see if it's a lot like yesterday. But the overall theme of the day is going to be penny stocks, which I don't normally recommend, but I do want to give you guys some information on basically 5 penny stocks that you can invest in right now. Again, if you're on the younger side of investing, penny stocks can be attractive because you can buy a whole bunch of shares, and sit on them, and you're kind of hoping for the big win. But that's what we're going to talk about for today's show. If you're catching us on replay, go ahead and subscribe so you make sure you get notified every day when the video goes out. And if you want to catch us live, we have a bunch of folks in the chat room, and we have a Q&A window. That's how folks communicate with me. And again, they can ask any question under the sun. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. All right, welcome back, everyone, and special shout out to I see a name in the room I haven't seen for a little while. Our Round Rock football player. It's cool hearing your name on the radio. Last Friday night in the big win, and of course, good luck in the huge game tomorrow. I won't be there, but I will be certainly listening to it on the radio or watching on TV. It might even be televised. So with that, welcome everybody else as well. Make sure you have your Q&A window set up and your chat window set up appropriately. Standard disclaimer applies. This is a financial education presentation. So make sure you do your own due diligence before you act upon anything you hear in this presentation. Full disclaimer is available at OTOTnow.com. For our mission objectives today, grow our money, protect our money, and live off our money. Really, when we're talking about penny stocks or even the IPO stuff that we're going to talk about today, you're really talking about growing your money. So if you are on the younger side, like a couple of the folks in the room, it's high risk, but it's also high reward if you catch something kind of at the right time or early enough in what's called a micro cap company, a company that's not very big. So you get in early, buy a bunch of shares, and then you basically sit on them. And I will say most often it doesn't pan out, but sometimes the company either gets bought or it actually can grow organically to where it gets its own can grow to where the stock price actually appreciates on its own without getting bought out. Okay, the question today is, what are the pink sheets? So if you've heard, especially in movies, they say talking about investing in the pink sheets, well, that's what penny stocks are. I will show you exactly what it is, though, on Investopedia, so you can learn a little bit more. So when you hear that term, you know what they're talking about. Okay, for our flow today, it'll be long, short, open, short, long. We're going to talk long-term stuff first, around the world and headlines. That's when we'll talk about kind of the IPOs and how to invest in those and what happened yesterday and what do I think will happen with DoorDash today, that sort of thing. Then we'll talk about our long-term investments. There's the 5 names. I said I'd come up with 5 penny stocks for you. So there they are. I do have money, a little bit of money, not necessarily my own, but client money that's into all of these. So I'm familiar and fluent in all of them. And they all have a unique story and some upside. Otherwise, I wouldn't be in them. And then lastly, there's an index fund called the IWC. If you're kind of like, well, I don't really want to do the penny stock thing, but I believe and I want to catch companies at an early state, then you can go to the index fund, which is a micro cap ETF called IWC. We'll get into the day trading. Yesterday, I'll show you our trade. It actually, the short worked out in FireEye. It hit the 3-hour point mid-afternoon. You had to kind of sit and wait for it. And obviously the one we took long busted out right away. So, basically made 3R on the short and lost an R on the long, so net of a 2R day yesterday, so that worked out great for us. We'll execute that market open. We'll get into the question of the day as well as your questions. If you have any contingencies, reach out to me at this email, steve@ototnow.com, and we can get those resolved. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the trade from yesterday. We'll kind of clear that up. Well, here we'll look at Dash as well, since we're on it. So Dash yesterday opened at $102. So see if we can catch where that was. It's not even going to let us go out that far. But the first actual trade was up in the 180s. So as far as the, if you bought it at 102, right, and then your first trade is at 180, you're up 80%, and then it kind of bounced around, surged into the close, never did crack over 200 yesterday, but it'll be interesting to see what happens today. If I were a day trader, a full-time day trader, and I'm not, I would short into this all day long, because it's probably going to come in as people take profits from making 80% yesterday. But that's it for that. We're going to go back to Kodak, which is our number one long as well. And then just to wrap up, yesterday's short is in that far right-hand screen. We shorted FireEye on the, they got hacked. So a cybersecurity firm that gets hacked, well, that's kind of silly. That'll crush your stock. We were in at 1410. We went off air yesterday. We were up about an R, but it continued on down to the 2.5 hour point, retraced all the way back up, and then eventually hit our 1350 target yesterday in the afternoon. So again, set these things, forget it, go on about your life, go on about school, go to the gym, live your life, and come back, with the stop set in. And then when it hits a stop, it automatically captures your gain for you. All right. So let's go back to the long term. So here's our long-term investing chart. Again, this is the S&P 500, a 9-month version. Here's our lows back in March. We had the nice run up going into the election. At the election time frame, kind of had some turbulence going in, and it's pretty much been straight up since the election, except for yesterday. Yesterday was a down day. I told you, don't worry about down days after you've had these huge run-ups, right? You actually want that to happen so the market can reset a little bit. So here's the dark blue days are the days of the week. Excuse me. So this is last Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, and then this is yesterday's kind of big move down. No big deal. You're, if you lost money yesterday, you go back to your net worth being where it was last week, right? So, not a big picture. Not a big deal. However, when you look at the momentum this morning, it's kind of all down, and we got some negative headlines as well that we'll get to right now as I share out, excuse me, CNBC to you. Okay, so let's get the futures here. We'll refresh real quick. So as you can see, futures in the red across the board, including the NASDAQ, almost down 1%. So that's pretty significant. As we go around the world, Asia is pretty well mixed. Excuse me, Europe is mixed. Clicking on Asia, Asia is mixed as well. Here's our numbers from yesterday, almost 2% in the NASDAQ. So like Kramer was saying this morning, when you have one stock that goes up 80%, that money has to come from somewhere, right? So where does it come from? Generally not off of the sidelines. Folks are having to sell things to be able to buy DoorDash. So selling out of stocks that are in the NASDAQ, like Apple, and then buying into things like DoorDash. So money rotation, I wouldn't be all that worried about the sell-off yesterday. Bonds are pretty well unchanged. Oil's actually stabilizing nicely, up a couple percent from yesterday. Gold and silver got a bump up as well. And then Bitcoin sold off a little bit, about 2%. Remember, 20,000 is kind of that magic number. It keeps bouncing off of that with Bitcoin. And that's what I'm going to try to get to cover tomorrow is Bitcoin. So if you're interested in that, make sure you tune in tomorrow as well. All right, back to the headlines. I'm going to hit the in the chat real quick. A couple more names just showed up. So there you go. There's what we're going to be taking a look at. All right, as far as our headlines, let's talk about the DoorDash IPO. So DoorDash IPO, biggest of the year, started at $102, and the first tick, as you saw in the chart, was up at 180, and it bounced around. So a lot of people made a lot of money yesterday in this IPO. And then today, I would say we have even a more attractive IPO with Airbnb. So like there was risk yesterday with, do you really want to be in food delivery business long term? Kind of depends on what the world looks like in 6, 12, or 18 months from now. Are we still pretty much now home centric? because we've gotten used to that? Or are we rebelling against the fact that we've been in our homes and now we're out and about more often? And of course, if we're out and about more often, then a name like DoorDash would get hit. If we're out and about more often, a name like Airbnb would increase. So my take on the issue is I think we'll be far more inclined to be out and about and being social and traveling and all those things. So I think Airbnb is a much better investment long-term than DoorDash. So if the same theory holds today, where yesterday DoorDash went up because we're going to stay at home, I could see Airbnb, there's one side of me says it's going to scream higher because that's what IPOs do. And everybody's buying them. The other side of me says, well, if they believe the DoorDash thesis, then Airbnb will probably decrease today. Again, haven't had too many IPOs that actually decreased, but I think it could. And people that don't believe in the long-term, renting out everybody houses and having weird people in your home and all that sort of thing. So we shall see. Again, that should open yesterday. It opened. DoorDash opened around 1 Eastern. This one's supposed to schedule around 11 Eastern. So again, if you're Central Time Zone, which most of you are, then that's 10 a.m. So you can watch that live, pull up any of your platforms or just CNBC, and you'll hear a bunch of commentary on everything out of that. Okay. Vaccines progressing along. Ready to vaccinate seniors in nursing homes. So if you haven't seen the hierarchy, you can just Google it. But a pretty comprehensive plan as far as how we're going to roll out the vaccine. So if you are young and healthy, you're just not going to see it. ABNB is going to be the ticker for Airbnb there. Burner for asking. And projected price is right here. 68 is going to be the opening price. So if you want to get in, limit, or, if you're thinking trading strategies on the way in, you could go limit at 75 if you think it's going to go higher. If you think it's going to go lower, I would just watch it open. If you're working and you can't watch it open, then I call it a stink bet. Put down like a $60 share. And that way, if it does happen to go down, you'll get filled at that level. All right, let's see what else we got. Kevin O'Leary, day trading isn't investing; it's gambling. It certainly can be gambling if you're not following strict rules that you have set in place ahead of time, and then following them very diligently. Then yes, you're basically gambling and you're entertaining yourself. If you want to do that, that's fine. Obviously, it's like at the poker table, the people having the most fun are usually the worst players, right? Because they're doing all kinds of bad stuff, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And if you're just a winning poker player, it's actually kind of boring. It's just a slow overtime mathematical liquidation of other people's money over to your pocket. Same thing with day trading. We have a very specific strategy. We want to take advantage of all of those people that really don't know what they're doing and just simply move their money into our accounts and call it good. And they will always show up. So why would Kevin O'Leary say this? Well, obviously he's got a whole bunch of funds out, and fund people are better off if they have people put money into their funds and not do any sort of individual stock work. So, all right, jobless claims were higher than expected. So again, this was about the first time we've seen this in a long time. So tomorrow we will get the unemployment number. So that might actually move the stock market further into the red if today's a red day, which is kind of setting up to be tomorrow could be even worse if the unemployment rate actually goes up. So we shall see what tomorrow holds. Some Texas news there. Yep, Elon Musk moved to Texas yesterday. So how about that? I think that's a win for our state. We talked about this AirPods Max yesterday. Don't know if that's going to be impressive or not. I generally buy Apple stuff. I'm not rushing out to buy that. So I don't know. We'll see. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at our some names out there. So again, when I'm talking penny stocks, since that's the thesis for today, I'll bring that means anything below $5. Penny obviously means below $1, but really you're looking definition wise, anything below $5. And that's where the mutual funds, that's their fence. A lot of them have the charter of they can't own stuff that's below $5 a share. So since that, it trades generally over the counter, and it generally trades off these pink sheets, which you'll hear me talk about later. But this is Luckin Coffee. Now, Luckin Coffee was a $40 stock, a year ago, as it's the Starbucks of China. There was some fraud. There was some of their figures didn't work out, and the stock cratered all the way down to, let's see if we have this. So yeah, here's where the chart is. Here it was at 47 or so. this doesn't show, but actually went down to $1.18 was, I think, my best entry on it. Anyway, I've been bullish on this name. Obviously, the coffee stores are still there, and coffee is a high margin addictive product. So I really like this name, but it is a stock you can get in below $5. But if you try to go to FinViz like we normally do, they don't really carry penny stocks. So if you're still looking something up and you can't find the information you want, then that's generally why it's like, oh, well, it's such a low price point that we aren't actually going to be able to find it. Okay, over to Schwab. We're going to take a look at some other names here. Let's see, LKNCY, that's Luckin Coffee. And it was ticker LK. This is a better showing of this chart because it shows you all the way down to this point right here, down to $1, right? So yeah, house of pain. We don't talk about failures much, but if you are investing and your stock can crater, 80% overnight. So it's individual stocks. So you have to just be aware that can happen, much like DoorDash going up 80% yesterday. So yeah, pretty good entry here. I think the stock is just finding its way higher. I do think this is a $20 stock in the next couple of years. So I have quite a bit of it. I may be wrong. Don't put your life savings into Luckin Coffee, right? It's high risk. This is another interesting, this is a psychedelic name. It's called Revive Therapy. So if you believe there's a lot of mental health folks, and much like marijuana can go in and help people with pain, there's a lot of the believers in psychedelics can actually go help people with mental health issues and anxiety issues. So again, it's at 30 cents. This is, pick up some shares, just hold it and see what happens. Northwest Bio is a biotech firm out there, so drug maker. That would be another option. It has done very well, obviously, in a COVID type environment. Most of the bio firms are doing well. There's CBD, so if you want to invest in the marijuana side of things, again, the big theme, there's two pieces. There's recreational and there's medicinal. And there's various legalization efforts on both. And there was a bill in the House this week already that passed. It won't get past the Senate for legalization and decriminalization and all those things. So if you are a believer in marijuana and you think it's going to follow the same path as alcohol, then you would definitely want to get behind this. And they want to tax it, right? So sin taxes, we tax alcohol, we tax gasoline. We would certainly tax marijuana. Clickstream, lower left there, it's a 2-cent stock, so be aware. But this thing is an app that has a trivia game and you win money. I don't really know how it works, but anyhow, some big names are behind it, so it may actually take off. And then the last one I'll bring up is that IWC, which again, if you just are like, I don't really feel like owning a penny stock, but I do believe that I want to get in on this stuff early on, then IWC is the way to go. Okay, about 3 minutes to the open. Let's go ahead and switch to, yep, thank you. Sorry about that. Sharing out Schwab. Here we go. So there, that should be better. We're still looking at Luckin here, but I do want to look at Kodak Long. That's our long for today. CODK. Remember, this was the name that ran up huge back in here. It's been a while, and it's run up huge again and come back in. They have a new printer out. So anyhow, business software for printers, sorry. So anyhow, that's why they're jumping up. They're up like 7%. So that's going to be our long for the day. Another long out there is we have ASO, which is Academy Sports, has been crushing it. They had an earnings release. So up to about 1830. I don't like this chart because it's in uncharted territory, if you will, going higher. So I'm not going to touch ASO, but you could if you wanted. And then as far as the negative or the shorting side, we have Sienna Corp gapping down. They missed, they had bad earnings and they got a downgrade. And then our next one is the FLR. Also missed earnings, a little bit light on volume, but it's gapping down just a little bit. So we'll have to keep an eye on that in the open. All right, let's switch over to TD Ameritrade and we'll get our systems set up for the opening trades. We've got Kodak here on the left long, we've middle, we have CN short, there's your arrow, and on the right side, this again is a delayed entry, so we aren't going to get aggressive with the right side. We have the FLR. All right, get my ticker set up on another screen, and there we go. All right, welcome everyone to the On Time On Target play of the day. We have 4 screens in front of you. Far left is the SPY. We'll watch that on a 1-minute chart. Negative momentum going into the open. Here's the open. There's the opening bell. We're looking at Kodak long with a new software that's out. So we'll keep an eye for that going long. Our Sienna is our short, not gapping down a whole lot, but we're going to take that here pretty quick if it gives us an opportunity. And then we got to wait on FLR. So let's look at stop. Oh, pretty pissed about that. Well, we can't take it here. We do have to wait to see if this backs up. So it was going to take, come on back up. I like 45.40. That would give us still a 70-cent stop. Not willing to short it down here though. So it's got to back up to at least 45. If we take it at 45, you can use a 40-cent stop. This is pretty daggone aggressive if it gives that to us. Otherwise, we're just going to have to wait. So again, I'm waiting for it to climb back up to 45. If it doesn't, then we just got to say we missed it. Okay. Let's look at see if there's any volume going into FLR. Again, it had a pretty big downgrade. So some volumes rushing in. Here are our entry point. Don't take this yet. I'm just drawing up on what it would be since it's not moving a whole lot. Ooh, I like that tick up there. Yeah, I may not have the volume to be able to, after minute 2, it's really kind of dying off here. So let's look at some other names. Again, we got to wait on Sienna to come back up to us. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. QIWI. Kodak is just failing, so we're not going to talk about Kodak. This was a short. It's already moved down pretty significantly there, so can't really touch that. PSTI was another short. Really not doing much, and I don't remember the headline associated with it. Tesla was actually set up for our shorts today. Again, not going to touch it. Going back to Sienna here. So in the perfect world, I'd like to see it north of 45, and then we can take it. But it's going to be a tight stop, so it's going to be aggressive. But have your ticker set up for 45. If we see 45, then hop in with the short and see where you get filled. So again, just being patient. Come on, get north of 45. Oh, that double top at 44.97. Should have taken it there. I was thinking about 44.95 on the entry there. All right, got to be patient. All right, looking away. Tesla's doing fine. I wouldn't short that anyway. All right, let's see. FSR was another name we're going to look at short. Pretty big move. It's already out of that 10% window, though. We'll keep that pulled up there. All right. Kodak is not working long. All right, we may get our chance here. With Sienna, not going to wait too long for this. All right, we're going to look at another long name. What did we have? We had ASO. So that's Academy Sports. It was gapping up. It came into, this is not a bad entry to go long here. I don't like that big red move in the market, though. I don't think Academy has enough to be able to overcome this big strike down here. So, all right, looks like we are not going to get a trade today. The only thing I would take is if this will get back up to 45, take it with a 50-cent stop. I mean, it's already at the 2R point. Yeah, that's what happens when these things move that fast. It's hard to get in on them unless you just, or you can take a little bit pre-market. I know I used to do that, but I was not, didn't have enough conviction in Sienna to take any pre-market. So, all right, going to give up on that. Let's see how the markets are doing overall. We'll get back to the long thoughts of the day. So NASDAQ's down 1%, S&P down 2/3, Dow Jones down 0.5%. Let's look at the big picture sort of stuff. Here's a penny stock, Empower. It's Empower something or other. It's a psychedelic stock. Laser down again. I may hop in and buy some of that today. That's the light detection and ranging company for the brains of the self-driving cars. So pretty good thesis there. That's the Mind Medicine that we talked about already this morning. Talked about Northwest Bio. So all these penny stocks, remember, like with Northwest Bio, 4% is like, a fraction of a cent. So these things can move. You see Tesla down there. Hillion's the old Shell hydrogen company. DraftKings down some. Google, there's our YCBD. We talked about the marijuana name being down. So I wouldn't be anxious to buy anything today. When you look at the SPY, kind of zooming in on, opening here, pretty well kind of trending down. So I don't know what news cycle could come out today other than a stimulus package, which I don't think it's going to happen today. I think tomorrow would be the earliest. That's going to, take the market higher. So I think my take would be the market just kind of continues into the red for most of the day. Nothing alarming, just heading on the way down. All right, there's another psychedelic name. Starbucks is up. Don't know why. There's the Revive Therapeutics we talked about earlier. It is up. There's Clickstream we talked about earlier. So you see a lot of these times the penny stocks will be on the leaderboards just because if they barely move at all, that moves them to the top of the chart. But not a whole lot in the green today, and it's probably going to be less so over time. All right, let's click back to the chart and see where this guy eventually. If you're going to sit and trade all day, if you wait for this to back up to 45, you can take it with a 50-cent stop. And then, of course, your exit's going to be down at 43.50. I'm not going to take that trade in the room, but that's how you would want to play that if you choose to. Okay, no trades today. Let's get off of my trading screen and onto a different screen before I share it out. Okay, there we go. I'm sharing out to you Google Chrome. And what are pink sheets? So stocks that trade over the counter. If you've seen if you think the 80s movies, if you will, of folks trading on the floor and guys, standing there in those blue flight suits, if you will, with numbers on the back and, waving paper in the air and they're yelling at each other. And there's a different pit for each stock. And that's the kind of the 80s way or earlier way of trading. Well, out of that, if you are trading a high risk stock, they came out with a pink sheet. So if you were below $5, then you had a pink sheet. So that gave people, as things are flying around and people are actually trading, and millions of dollars are moving around by the second, then you need to make sure that you don't mess up. And, the pink sheet was a way to highlight that to everybody that somebody's pushing a stock that is highly speculative, if you will. Less regulatory oversight and lack of liquidity. So what does that mean in simple terms, right? So the government's not really looking at these. They say put it on the pink sheet and then they wish you the best of luck. Even if you are under 18 and you decide you want to get in on these things, you can. You simply go through your brokerage account or Robinhood and you buy them. There's nothing really to protect you from yourself, sort of thing. Now, that also means you can make more money there too because they move a lot. But there's less regulatory oversight. So if Apple puts out bad earnings or their books are cooked, everybody in the world's going to know about it. If Clickstream does it, it may not even make the local news. So there's just not a lot of people looking at it. So, and then lack of liquidity, what that means is if you buy 10,000 shares of a stock because you can, because it's at 2 cents or whatever, then when you go to sell those, there may not be somebody who's willing to take all those shares off your hand. If you take a stock like Apple that has millions of shares moving every day under what's called the average daily volume, so you can see these things. If the average daily volume in Clickstream is 20,000 and you have 10,000 shares, well, good luck moving them right? Without adversely, having to pay somebody else's price. So that's what liquidity means. Okay, you often hear this over the counter, which means it's delisted from the major listings, the New York Stock Exchange or the NASDAQ. Let's see. Pros and cons. So the pros, obviously, you can make a lot of money. You can get on something at the ground level and watch something go from 10 cents a share to $5, and it'll be the story that you will literally tell for the rest of your life. The cons are that's not the end of the movie for most of these things. The end of this movie is usually a house of pain. So I would say what I tell folks about when they invest in speculative stuff is, don't put money into this that you wouldn't be okay with losing. And it's like, well, I don't want to invest, to lose. But literally, if you have, say, a $50,000 portfolio, then you can put $1,000 into a penny stock. If you have a $500 portfolio, then you can put, $5 into a penny stock. So just manage your position in penny stocks, just so it's a small portion. So if it does go to zero, you're not overly affected, right? Because you don't have a whole lot of exposure to it. But then again, if you get the 300, 400x move up, then you've got a story to tell. So, all right, that's what I have for you guys today. Sorry we didn't get that trade. If you want to keep looking at Sienna, it's keeps toying with the idea of 45. You can short it from there with the 50-cent stop. So, all right, with that, we will see you guys back tomorrow morning on Friday. Talk to you later.